Welcome in, Hawks fans. Welcome back to your Atlanta Hawks fan show. It's your boy Bryce Lewis back again to talk all things Hawks. It's very exciting right now in the city, and we have a very special guest to talk about that. McCain Baxley, AJC Sports Intern, here on the show today. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. Man. Glad to talk about our Hawks right now, who have just made it to the Eastern Conference Finals again since 2015, coming off a great, exhilarating 7-game series against the 76ers. Had to go off to them, but, our team was able to pull it out. And, I just want to go right into it, man. After seeing this series, how everything played out, it was definitely up and down, back and forth. What are the biggest takeaways from the series to you? And especially Game 7, what stood out to you in that game in particular, and then overall in the series?
I think overall in the series, the fact that they were able to, Game 1, Hawks came out, shot lights out, had, a franchise record, 20 made three-pointers, franchise playoff record. And then the next 2 games, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, their size really, wore down this Hawks team. And after that third game, the third game was here in Atlanta. I was able to attend it. After that, I thought it was going to be a short series. I didn't think there's any way they could get around that size and, put the numbers they needed to, but they did, obviously, and then, found 3 more wins. And that's the biggest story. They were able to, though they are a very short team, obviously they have Clint Capella and, John Collins and Onyeka. They're in the post. They're a very short team, relatively. So the fact they're able to go past that size, which is, on paper, probably their worst matchup in the Eastern Conference, and took them to 7 games. Won 3 games there in Philadelphia. And then if you look at Game 7, they came out, and after the first quarter, there was no real chance that I thought Atlanta was going to lose. They just seemed like they wanted it more. They felt like, because at Game 6 and, in Atlanta, sold out crowd and in a crazy environment, back and forth all night. And I think they really thought that was a game that they let slip. It would have given them a few extra days of rest, would have, given them another home win in the MLK uniforms and a home win, in State Farm Arena. But obviously didn't happen. So I felt like they needed to win that on the road. And we find out later that they packed for 6 days. They didn't pack to they didn't pack to go home after Sunday night's victory. So confident win. They're in Game 7 in Philadelphia for the Hawks.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was big for them because, the funny thing I say is that, the Hawks are 5-2 on the road in the playoffs. And you would think with a young team, especially inexperienced and a lot of guys for the first time, usually the roads where they would struggle in homes where they play best, but the Hawks have played actually their best on the road, which is a great sight. Obviously, veterans like Lou and Gallo have showed up in those games. Very important for them and really helps out with the young guys. Obviously, Kevin Huerter had a big Game 7. That was really key for us to get out of that game. So that was big in terms of being able to get enough points, get enough support, because sometimes shots weren't falling in certain games. And so that sometimes was frustrating. I know Game 6, like you said, felt like it slipped through their hands. People feel like, Sporting Cast wasn't making shots, but they did it in Game 7, and that was big. But now, so transitioning into the series with the Bucks, Bucks coming off giving game series against Brooklyn. Giannis is, some people say him and Ben Simmons are the same player, except Giannis is aggressive and actually can score, but struggles with the jump shot, struggles at the free throw line. Maybe he's just good enough. Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. What are your thoughts on that series? Do you see this being more challenging than Philadelphia? Do you see it being around the same? Because again, it's a big, long team. Do you see this series maybe the Hawks can play the Bucks different because they've had some success against them in the regular season? How do you see this series panning out for the Hawks? Like I said, a lot of people in the media are going back. Hawks lose 4 or 5 games. Do you expect it to be a long series? Do you expect it to be highly competitive? What are you thinking when you think about this series on paper and through the eyes?
On paper, I think it's a better matchup for Atlanta than it was 76ers. Like I said, Philadelphia's size. I think Joel Embiid proved, even though they did lose 4 games, I think he did prove that he is one of, if not the best player right now in the NBA, and they were able to get past that. This team looks more similar to the Knicks series. They've got a few experienced guys, but not really. I mean, Giannis, they haven't made it to the finals. With Giannis, he's won 2 MVPs. Sure, again, he is top 5-10 player in the NBA, but they don't have that experience. Now the Hawks, I mean, so experience out of the door, and then you just look at it on paper, and they've got some shooters here and there. With Middleton, with other guys on the perimeter. But I mean, it's a very, very similar team to what we saw with the New York Knicks. As far as size and playing style, the Hawks went 1-3 against them in the regular season, but 2 of those were without Trae Young and John Collins. So it kind of skews that. And right now, I mean, I don't think there's a team in the NBA playing better and playing more consistent than the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, they are playing firing on all cylinders, confident. I mean, there's. It's just there's been some times this series where I've kind of looked back and been like, how did they win that game? How did they make those shots? I mean, you look at last night. I mean, your best player, I think our hands down, Atlanta's franchise player and one of the top 10 players in the league, Trae Young, has one of his worst games of his career, definitely his worst game of the postseason, and they still win by 7 on the hands of Kevin Huerter and Clint Capella and neutralizing Philadelphia's aggression and size. So yeah, I mean, it's a matchup that it's the one that Atlanta wanted. I don't think they would have matched up well against Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn kind of came in as they were the 2 seed, sure, but I think they were the better team. Obviously, injuries stifled them, with Kyrie out for most of the series and Harden not playing 100% and, Kevin Durant just being, insane. But so I think that would have been a more difficult matchup for Atlanta, but to go to Milwaukee where it's not an incredibly home court advantage. I mean, they played in the 2 toughest places, and like you said, they've won 5 of them in Madison Square Garden and the Wells Fargo Center. So they're comfortable on the road, comfortable at home. Obviously, they've won majority. They don't lose at home often. So I mean, they got to be feeling good about where they are right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, coming into the series, I think, like I said, they should have some confidence. They're comfortable on the road. So, and they've been able to steal game 1 of the last 2 series. If they can do that again, they got home court and they're right back into, if they defend home court, you never know what could happen. So, but I guess my last question before I let you go is just, so coming into this series, who's the one player you think is key for the Hawks in this series that outside of Trae, who you just say he has to be at the top of his game and play consistent every game for them to be able to beat the Milwaukee Bucks?
I'm going to give you 2. I think one of them is Bogey. Bogdanovic, he's a guy that got hurt there in game 6. And then, before the injury in the second half in game 6, he wasn't doing well at all. He started last night, surprisingly. He has right knee soreness and surprisingly started and played, a decent amount of minutes and just wasn't off. Or he was off, excuse me. He needs to light it up. He needs to step in and be that consistent, 3-point scorer and defensive force that he has been for much of this postseason, and especially during the regular season when he was healthy. So he's one guy that I think, and I think he will. I think something that's been underplayed by media and fans and everybody is how crucial these 3 days of rest are. I mean, this series, it's a 7-game series, and they've had 1 day of rest in between each game against the physicality and size of Philadelphia and the travel. And I mean, they haven't had rest. Now they got 3 days. They went to Milwaukee last night, got there, probably 2 or 3 a.m. this morning, and will be able to rest their bodies and not having to go day in, day out, as far as travel. So that's gonna be huge. And the guy is John Collins, a guy that he's had good games here and there this playoffs, but has yet to really be, we've only seen him in 2 series, 12 games total, but we have yet to see a series where he is consistent all 4 to 7 games, whatever needed. Him and Capella did a fantastic job the last 2 or 3 games. Like I said, shutting down Embiid and dealing with the presence that is Philadelphia's size. And you're gonna have a lot less of a challenge, I think, when you go to Milwaukee when you play the Bucks. So for him to be able to get in there and crash the boards, both on both ends will be crucial for the Hawks to get a comfortable series win.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously, especially with John, I think that's big, especially because the contract, everybody keeps bringing that up. So, every time he has a bad game, oh, he lost me. He has a good game, he got him back. So it's just, I guess we'll see when all of it's said and done, where John is at the end of it all. But yeah, I definitely agree with those two players have to be big for the Hawks for them to win this next series. But thanks, McCain, for coming on to the show today. Definitely appreciate you coming on. This was your Atlanta Hawks fan show. McCain, before I go, let them know where they can find you.
That's going to be on Twitter, for all things Hawks and everything, music, movies, everything in between. It's going to be at McCain Baxley. That's at McClainBaxley. And follow me on Twitter, and I'll try to give you some good tweets here and there.
Yes, sir. We love to see it. Like I said, it's your Atlanta Hawks fan show. This is your boy Bryce Lewis signing out. See you next time.
To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, create a profile in Fan Media Network. Then look for the news page in our website and fan show resources page. Help yourself. We give show hosts a show graphic in team colors, a simple short show format, tips on pre- and post-production, ideas to get fans and guests on your show, Apple News distribution and show sponsorship sales and services to help featured show hosts earn money. Show hosts use our iPhone app to publish their shows. Our website supports Android users.